So we're continuing our verse-by-verse study through the book of Titus. We're going to look at verse 2 now. Now, verse 2 picks up in the middle of Paul's thought, so it helps us to be familiar with verse 1, which reads, Paul, a bondservant of God and apostle of Jesus Christ, for the faith of those chosen of God and the knowledge of the truth which is according to godliness. And we'll pick up his thought with verse 2, which reads, in the hope of eternal life, which God, who cannot lie, promised long ages ago. Now, with verse 1, we've seen that Paul establishes himself as the author of the letter and gives his authority as the truthful revelation of God, and that this truth is to be believed and not attained through works. This same truth is revealed, Paul says in verse 2, in the hope of eternal life. Again, remembering that we're using the inductive method, we're going to be observing the text, interpreting the text, and applying the text. So the first word that we should notice here is hope, which reinforces the idea that truth is to be believed and hoped in, rather than attained by works and realized in deeds. Hope is not seen, it is believed. And the specific substance of that hope, the motivation for that belief, Paul says, is eternal life. This is the promise of a future life that is hoped in, as opposed to a reward that is inherited now. Then Paul says this eternal life is something that God, who cannot lie, promised long ages ago. And this tells us that his teaching of eternal life is nothing new, and that it is in fact rooted in the Old Testament. Though there is benefit to studying each book of the Bible individually, we must remember that each book is part of a collective whole that, when taken together, reveals the plan of God from beginning to end. In other words, if we are familiar with the Bible story, Paul's teachings here really shouldn't surprise us. There is a remarkable consistency to the Bible story, and that consistency reveals to us that God has never intended man to be saved by his own works. Instead, God has always intended that man would be saved through Christ.